Been reviewing a lot of Switch 2 stuff, and this is one I actually bought. This was not sent for review. This is from a company called BEBONCOOL, designed as sort of what I like to call a cradle controller for the Switch 2, which is one where you slide in the Switch 2. Is it a viable option until we have more on the market? Because recently I reviewed the Nixie Hyperion 3, there's the MobilePad M12s that are right around the corner, and then there's also the Absolute N6 and N9C. This is the cheapest of all the options that I've covered on the channel or that will be coming in the next couple of weeks. I found this for $38 USD. This is by far the lowest. Let's see if it's good enough. The box is pretty beat up. I bought this on AliExpress. It arrived today. A wireless connection, so this is Bluetooth, RGB, 3 levels of turbo. It has gyro and it has macro back buttons. 1000 hertz milliamp battery, so that should give us ample of hours, I would assume. Additional storage for 4 cards. I don't really use game cards, but if you do, it's nice that you have this storage. Securely locked to the console, so I didn't know that was a feature, so I guess to prevent it from like sliding off or something. Macro button auto loop, so I guess you can have a function where the macro just keeps on acting and acting, which is going to be useful for something like Pokemon Z if you're farming shinies. And we have a full and comfortable grip. Well, that is subjective, but I'll sure give you my inputs on that very topic. The controller. Type-C to Type-A cable, so most likely for charging. I mean, it's a very, very average run-of-the-mill cable, so there's really nothing special. A pretty bulky manual. Now, I know this also has an app that you can use to make some adjustments on the controller. Yeah, KeyLinker. How I can easily tell you what this feels like. If you enjoyed the controllers, the SplitPad Pro that came out for the Switch 1 alongside Daemon X Machina, feel almost identical to these controllers. Feels very cheap, almost sounds hollow. That doesn't mean it's gonna be bad, but it feels cheap. So another reference, the buttons and the feel, the plastic, if you ever purchase one of those BSP controllers, that's also what it feels like. Cheap texture on the triggers, cheap membrane all around, kind of noisy. The D-pad is membrane also. Clickable sticks, they kind of grind a little bit to the edges. You want something that's going to be cost efficient, which again, it doesn't mean it's going to perform bad. But the feeling of it is... Let's see what it looks like when we put the Switch 2 in it. That slid into the controller quite easily, and that's probably, now I understand why there's a lock mechanism. I think it might slide if I put it upside down. Yeah. So without holding it, it definitely goes down. So that's why there's a lock mechanism. And now with the lock engaged, yeah, it's not coming out. Not coming out at all. It's nudged. I don't know exactly what they lock on, though. Oh, they have a little prong that sticks out and inserts itself at the bottom of the Switch 2. Okay. Obviously, this has no connection. It just sits the console here, you know, to not put too much pressure where those locking mechanisms are installed. But arguably, this serves no purpose. And for the record, no way you're docking this. But even if you were, it blocks the USB-C, right? So this is out of the question. But thankfully, you can still charge the Switch 2 here, and you would charge the controller here because it's not connected. So it has to have a separate charge if you're out of battery. So I assume it's going to be the home button. Yep. It paired pretty automatically. So that's nice. If I go into the game and I push, oops, and I hold home. Okay, so it doesn't see this as a Switch 2 Pro controller. Otherwise, we would see GL and GR, which means that we should be able to remap accessibility. There it is. Button mapping. Yeah, okay, so it comes in as a Nintendo Switch Pro controller, so we can remap these buttons. I'm not sure if this has rumble. Usually these controllers, when they do, it is super duper cheap rumble. There's an icon that looks like a vibration, so I will assume that it does. Indeed it does. Okay, and that controls the intensity, so you can address the intensity. This is not a rotary motor. This is haptic. Here's something I actually appreciate. I'm not usually a big fan of cheap haptics motors, but these are actually not super noisy. And this is at the highest level. This is actually decent. Not the worst. I would have expected worse, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if they have some padding around the motors to like tweak the bad vibrations and tweak the audio down a little bit. You hear it. I'm not saying it's dead silent. It's not, but it's not obnoxious either. Usually with these kinds of controllers, like it's zzz, zzz. Sorry for the demo here, but it's usually very, very loud and obnoxious. It's not here. I'm not sensing any delay. I mean, it is Bluetooth. If there is some, it's not to an annoying level, I would say. The buttons are not unpleasant. They're cheap, but that doesn't make them bad. I actually like the feel. They're thumpy. They're quite noisy. The face buttons. I don't mind that it's engraved. The letters are engraved in the button. And that helps distinguish the button to the shell itself, the housing, because otherwise the feel of the plastic is the same. The engraving kind of gives it a little bit of texture, which I appreciate, unlike the D-pad that feels exactly like the housing. Convex sticks. Tension is about 60 TGF. Really, the problem is you don't have any metal rings, and it grinds a little bit. They're decent. They're Hall effect, by the way, so no drift. That's arguably another benefit. The D-pad has a center pivot. Seems nice in operation. No problem there. We'll test that in a fighting game a little later. If you like a membrane trigger, this one, you know, it has a membrane that is so deep that it feels like it could make you think it's analog, but it's not. This is digital because, you know, that's what the Switch works with. But it just has a lot of travel. Not unpleasant to the feel. The little texture that they have on top is kind of cheap, but beyond that, it feels decent. The bumpers are also membrane. And this is something, honestly, I find too many controllers use tactile buttons. You know, I'm here thinking, okay, this is 38 USD. The plastic feels cheap, but everything else feels decent. And you know what? If this is the kind of balance a manufacturer has to have, that's what I'd much rather see. Because technically you could put stickers, you could put grip tape on it, you could do a lot of things to address the cheap feel of the plastic. But if the components under the housing are bad, there's not much you can do. Here, it feels genuinely decent. There's definitely dead zones on the sticks. Now, to be fair, that might be the game too. It's probably not going to be great sticks for like Splatoon, Resident Evil, Requiem, games where aiming is going to be important. But for your casual platformer, adventure, RPG, the sticks will do fine. We don't have any axis snapping. And okay, and the dead zone, there's a little bit of it, but the dead zone was seemingly more from the game than it is the sticks. So you know what? I guess these might do decently well with aiming. This is not like a zero dead zone TMR, but you know, it's pretty good overall. Apparently, this controller should be able to wake up the Switch 2, but we're gonna have to follow a specific procedure. And by the way, this doesn't have amiibo. It does have gyro, however. Okay, so right now, as you can see, it's not connecting to the Switch 2. That's fine, because I did a regular pairing. According to the manual, we need to redo the entire pairing process. With the Joy-Cons attached to the Switch 2, very important. We'll go into change grip and order. We'll put this controller into pairing. So we'll just hold the button. I believe that's how we do. Yeah. So it's going to pair. And once it pairs, we'll back out. And then it says to disconnect the Joy-Con and reconnect it. And apparently now the wake up function should work. So let's go ahead and test this out. Okay. Now to wake up. Indeed it does. Okay. And as you can see, by the way, this is also a controller that you could use wirelessly because it's Bluetooth, right? Let's talk about ergonomics. If you have bigger hands, adult hands, this definitely feels better than Joy-Cons. This does push your wrist out a little bit. I don't have enough of a frame to show you, but yeah, because of the way that the curve is kind of created, it does push your wrist out a little bit. Not uncomfortable, especially if you're holding it like against your face. Well, not literally, but you know, as if standing up kind of thing. It's gonna feel nice. It feels better than Joy-Cons. Is it the best ergonomic controllers I've seen so far for the Switch 2? No, I would say the Hyperion 3 does it better, but it's comfortable. Again, it reminds me of the SplitPad Pro, which when the SplitPad Pro came out originally, man, it was a blessing because there was nothing like it, and it was better than Joy-Cons. But over time, it got surpassed. It's kind of the same thing we have here. You know, it's really reminiscent of that controller, and it's good, but I also know that we'll see better. And you know, you have options like a G8 Plus that you could use, which would do a great job if you already have. But if you don't, and you want something that is cost efficient, well, maybe that's the better option for you. We do have back buttons. So one of them being the ability to remap your RGB. So we have different styles by pushing the button. Couple of options, we can close it all together, so that's nice. Let's see what else we have here. Mode. So mode, this is going to be for things like turbo. So right now the button is behaving normal, so if I hold B while pushing A, normally what this should do is activate. No, oh okay, we have a dedicated turbo button. I'm sorry. So T and then A, and then it blinks and it lets us know that turbo is activated, and we now have turbo. And another time should make it a toggle. Yep. Now turbo is a toggle. And one last time should deactivate it. Yep. Okay. Now then that means that the mode button is probably for the back paddle. So let's try that. We hold M, hold the back paddle for a while, then it's going to blink. It's ready to record. Let's see if we can do macro. Yes, we can. And I would assume then we can also do just a regular button. Yes, we can. Okay. And of course, when we do regular button, there's no timings involved. I see here that SL and SR are mapped. That's kind of interesting. They don't do nothing. I don't know why these buttons exist. Okay, now I get it. The SR and SL are to loop your back buttons. So that's why right now it keeps doing what I recorded on my back button. It's because it is in a loop. So if I double tap, as I understand it, there you go. Now the loop is removed. You can also deactivate the back button. It's back to being activated. So the SL and SR will serve to deactivate or loop the side adjacent button. So, okay, I've never seen that before on a third-party controller. That's unique, at least for what I've seen so far, to this specific controller. Let's test it in a fighting game, see how that D-pad does. I have the KeyLinker app here. Oh, JC400. So if you ever use KeyLinker, I mean, usually you have a bunch of things that you can do. Address your mappings, which arguably you could do in the software as well. Oh, and there's usually an advanced mode. Yeah, so you want to click here, advanced, switch to the advanced mode. And now you see it's giving me access to more keys. We can calibrate the joystick. So if I wanted less dead zones, I actually want 5 on Hall Effect. So I'm going to put 5. And I don't like to have and dead zone. So I'm going to remove it altogether. Can we do... No, I'm not going to address the curve. Motors. I want them all the way. We can address turbo here as well. Macro on your left, macro on your right. So if you wanted to design the macro rather than doing it manually, you could do that. RGB. And then sensor calibration. So you have that, which is connected in real time to the controller, by the way. Oh, I'm on 6. So yes, you can do that while being connected to the Switch because it uses a low Bluetooth signal to be addressable through an app. So this is what we have here, the KeyLinker app. Oh, no, no, no. No, 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 look. Dude, I'm struggling to hit the adjacent arrows. Oh no, the D-pad is not nice. Not for fighters, at least. Can't seem to do a... Jeez. You really have to be patient with that D-pad. And despite the D-pad itself being soft, the corners are already sinking in my thumb. Yeah, no, okay. there it is. We found the trash component of this controller, and it is by far that D-pad. I mean, to be fair, for platformers, I think it'll do fine, but for fighters, no, not good. You want to avoid that D-pad for those types of games for sure. The thing I'm realizing with this D-pad also is that, now, of course, that is more akin to membranes, but even then, it's like, say you roll like this, it's hard to distinguish when you're actually hitting a silicone pad on the different arrows. It all kind of, it's all a blur, if that makes sense, when using that D-pad. That doesn't help, you know, for just operations as a whole. As for Tetris, it's actually good. It's good for Tetris. It's a good D-pad for like single input commands. I think the issue, and it's also decent for comfort when, you know, like focusing primarily on one direction. The issue is when you're starting to get into multiple directions at once. That's where this D-pad falls short very, very rapidly. This turned out to be better than I expected it was going to be. I'm not trying to say that this is on par with something like a Nixie Hyperion 3, but I would argue that this is potentially a better pick than the Absolute N6. Now, to be fair, this is a Bluetooth controller, and maybe you don't want that at all. If you were to get an Absolute N6, genuinely, I think this is a better option, at least with the current landscape of how things are. At least this can wake up the Switch 2, and then this can double down as an extra controller. If you're sitting on the couch and you're playing with your kid and you don't have an extra one, well, this can serve as a dual purpose wireless controller. You don't have to be wired for it. So look, I was so ready to bash this thing to hell and back, because first I expected it was going to be cheap, and don't get me wrong, some elements of it is cheap, but for the most part, this actually feels good. Feels good in the hands, feels good in the buttons. The plastic feels cheap, but it doesn't make it a bad controller per se. The price is very compelling at $38 US, and you might even find it for cheaper. That's what I paid for it. It's pretty cost efficient at that price. The sticks feels good. The buttons feel decent. Really, I was not expecting this to be decent, and I would say that it's better than decent. This is good. So yeah. I would recommend the BEBONCOOL JC400 if you're looking for a replacement for Joy-Cons, and something that can also double down as an extra controller, and something that, again, I think it's no small feature, something that can effectively wake up the Switch 2, something that even the Absolute N6 cannot. Definitely, I think it's worth it. So if you're interested in getting one, I'll leave the link in the description. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. My name is Clef. Thank you very much for watching this video, and yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Peace.